Listeners and subscribers, hope all is well. California Carter coming at you with some content. Currently, I'm listening to the live Michael Cohen testimony before the House Oversight Committee. And it's been not necessarily the most interesting, but I definitely understand the sort of war between the Democrats and Republicans about the image this could be setting right before the lead up to the 2020 campaign cycle, right? And I think it's important to pay attention to a few things here. If we're going to be watching events unfold through strictly political optics, right, not looking at it from a multifaceted angle, I think we're going to lose an opportunity. If we're just going to look at this as just political and no other implications, we're going to miss a lot. Okay. And I think what we have to do is not get caught up in the subsequent media coverage, right? The subsequent narratives that are going to come for this. I would be remiss if all we're doing is talking about what the media talks about. We don't want to get too lost in parroting their narratives or debunking them altogether. We have to sort of choose our battles, which ones are going to be more beneficial for our cause and which ones are intentional distractions. So if we're just, talking about every inconsistency the media is perpetuating, we're no different than those who are lost in the strictly political paradigm, the left and the right, combating each other. We might as well be having the same arguments they are. What we should be doing is pointing out the flaws and the nefarious underpinnings when they are there, when they're evident, and when they can be articulated and expressed readily. Sort of like the Smollett thing. It was a prime example of how you can segue into a conversation with somebody about how these narratives and how these campaigns are facilitated. Okay, but that's a different story. You can, but I definitely understand from the Republican and Democrat side why the Democrats would want to make sure they are implicating Trump in a bad light, got him legally to sort of be able to paint a scenario where Trump could potentially be, taken out of power. That's just something that this could snowball into, and I think that's probably the ideal. Nobody, I don't think, and many people would argue that that's not the ideal scenario for the Democrats who oppose Trump, right? While the Republicans wouldn't want, Mr. Cohen here to be telling the truth about Mr. Trump because they don't want him implicated, right? So, I mean, I definitely understand the war that's going on, and I don't want people to get lost in that. I don't want that to become the topic. People talking about, well, this could hurt Trump in 2020, right? I mean, I think that is what they would like us to be caught up in, rather than saying, well, I think it's instances like this where we can sort of just glean what we can from this, take the good and spit out the bad. Because I don't know what the greater implications are for this when if we're looking at something like on the geopolitical scale, what's happening in Syria, Libya, Venezuela, the potential war that could break out there and Central America and drag other, South American countries into it. That is something we should be looking at and something we should be talking about, because by the time the government's making the decision on those things, the public it won't necessarily have the cognition to make an informed decision if it comes down to us declaring that we're going to, assist or aid in some war where we could just be contributing to more bloodshed. Okay, because it seems when the United States gets involved in these foreign affairs, there's fire and bloodshed and death and bombing and terrorism. And there's all this stuff, right? And there are many people who don't want the West to be involved in this. There are plenty who say that they already are. Okay, but things could deteriorate, and I don't think that is in the public consciousness yet. I don't think people are talking about that. They're too wrapped up in the wall and Cohen and all this other stuff that's going on. They're not thinking about the implications of the sort of storm that's brewing right now, and it's right in people's face. And without that conversation being had, by the time they're here to make some decisions, people will be woefully unprepared, and they won't know what narrative or what initiative to go behind, and they'll just follow the lead of the media when they want to program the people. It's funny how often the left and right comes together. The left and right paradigm, they come together to demonize people who question the narrative of 9/11, right? These are the conspiracy theorists. They come together on these types of things, but then they start to debate about others. Okay, so when they come together to demonize a certain group of people, I think those are the news stories and things we should be paying attention to, because I think they're trying to keep things covered up. Those are just some of the things we need to be paying attention to. Again, this is review for a lot of people, but what I'm trying to do here is introduce these sort of nefarious underpinnings to somebody who may be new to this stuff, and they can take this and investigate it, because this is a far-reaching type deal here. We're talking about something that touches a lot of people, even if you're not political. Okay, politics touches you, all right? And That's just the reality of the situation, and being informed about it simply makes you able to make better choices. Okay, what are you going to back? What aren't you going to back? What are you going to tell others that they should be backing if you aren't going to be, going out there and taking the initiative to vote or campaign against something? Anyway, that's enough for me. I think I'm going to come out with an episode where I'm going to do another freestanding thing like this. I'm going to get back to work. Take care of yourselves out there. Thanks for stopping by.